And it is June 9th, 2022, and we are going to do a live Q&A as we are doing Thursday. This time is earlier this week. Today we are doing it at 12 noon instead of later in the afternoon America time for people, so that people can come in and listen from Europe and from places outside of the time zone. This should allow it to be 8 hours outside of my time zone. 12 noon should be 5 to 8 o'clock in most of Europe, I think. I'm pretty sure. Somebody brought up an excellent point about the new Bodyweight 101 program. There is an error. It's a big one. It actually was supposed to be in Bodyweight program number 4. This is my fault. So I have been talking about 3 timing formats in the Bodyweight program. 30-30, a learning protocol, 20-10, and 60-60. You guys got a different version of the 2010, all the people who bought the Bodyweight 101. That wasn't supposed to come out for about 6 months because it's so psychotically mean and difficult that I wanted people to have a lot more prep time. Obviously, we're not going to take it away, but we are going to add in the proper timing format. So what happened, I had a family member in the hospital. I was looking at the stuff. I had somebody help me do the final edit on everything and upload it because my internet speed is so absolutely horrific. And we got the wrong version of the PDF, that wrong page, and we got the wrong video to go with it. It's right for a future program. So, my fault, guys. It is super hard. We will be adding in the correct timing protocol, should be by tomorrow morning. So right now you have 30-30, you have a version of 2010, which is 4 rounds. Somebody pointed this out to me, I think it was Jurgen Rose. They were correct, I was wrong. I went back and I looked at it and I was like, oh God, no, the slaughterhouse murder format. So what the murder format is each exercise done in a row, 8 exercises done in a row, 20 seconds of each one, 10 seconds break, 4 rounds, it's 20 minutes. It's a super fast, super hard block of training, which is supposed to be later in training. The normal version is also psychotic. This one just requires you to transition super duper fast. So it's supposed to be a 4th format that was supposed to come out for Krav Get Up number 2. But we have designed all this stuff so that we can drop in videos and export them, but they were both labeled 2010. So the wrong video and the wrong PDF got included. My fault, absolutely my fault, total editing mistake. Go ahead and do it though, it's Slaughterhouse. The correct version will be up tomorrow morning. I just have to make sure that I watch the whole thing and don't skip over the important parts like I did when I was sitting in the hospital waiting room, waiting for the doctor to come out and tell me what was going on. So there are now going to be 4 formats in Bodyweight 101. There were 3 that was planned for 3, but you're going to get 4 now. So 30-30, 30 seconds of work, 30 seconds of break. 8 exercises in a row takes 8 minutes. Times 4 rounds is 32 minutes. That's the easy one. That is 30 seconds of work. You're just supposed to figure it out, learn what you're doing. It can be a slaughterhouse format for most people anyway. 30 seconds of break, that gives you a lot of time to write down your numbers, collect yourself, and then move on. The second protocol, which will be uploaded tomorrow, is 20-10. 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, 8 times repeated. So the first movement is target squat. You'll essentially be doing 4 minutes of target squat, 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, 8 times 4 minutes total, 1 minute break. That's a long format. That makes that workout 40 total minutes. So 32 minutes, 40 minutes. The 60-60 version, 60 seconds of work, 60 seconds of break, focuses on making you much more efficient because you have to learn to endure and have the unification of structure, breathing, and movement. You do all exercises in a row, then you repeat it 4 times, 32 minutes again. The slaughterhouse format is only 20 minutes. It's 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, jump exercise. 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of break, jump exercise. And it goes through all 8 that way, and it's 4 rounds. So each round is only 4 minutes with 1 minute break. And I got to go back and check all this stuff again, make sure that all of them play out the way that they're supposed to play out. And that should be 20 minutes. So there should be a 32-minute format. That's generally the learning format, 20-10. Long format, 40 minutes. 60-60, 32 minutes. And then 20-10 in a series, that should be 20 minutes. So we were designing each one of these things so that you had body weight options for all of your time availability, because that's always what we're trying to do in our engineering design. We're trying to give people 20-minute option, 30-minute option, 40-minute option. You could do them in any order you want, but they are meant to be done 30-30, the correct 20-10 times 8, 60-60, and then 20-10 series. But if you need to jump around, once you've gone through it all, you can do whichever one you have time for that day. The exercises repeat. The goal is to make you super good at these just basic things: target, squat, lunges, sliding planks, hip drops, all these basic things, walkouts, so that we can build up to moving you towards more advanced programs, like the Krav program. The Krav program 1 did have 3 formats, but we're now changing it to have the 4th format because it's already out. The cat's already out of the bag. So my big surprise for fall is ruined because I ruined it. That's definitely my fault. Yeah, but that program is out now. The update will be out tomorrow morning, and you guys are just gonna have to forgive me. Sorry. All right, let's go to some questions. First, Frank Kusia had a question. He messaged it to me. Frank is a Judo and Jiu-Jitsu guy from Michigan. Talk all the time about judo. He wanted to know what would be good warm-ups for judo. So there's a couple of ways you can think about that. There's the long way and the short way. So we're going to answer this question in the annoying way that I always do, which is all about the math. The most important thing in jiu-jitsu or judo is your neck. So neck mobility. And we've put out free versions of that. Videos of that, our neck mobility series, 3 minutes. There's a second series, which is also 3 minutes. That is the absolute most important thing you should do, because when you're doing jiu-jitsu, somebody's trying to rip your neck off. You're wrestling with them and they're not agreeing with you and they're trying to rip your body apart. Most important thing is neck, then shoulders, then hips, then spine. So neck mobility, shoulder mobility, hip mobility. We have a hip mobility series and a free one that's on YouTube, hip mobility, something, I don't know. And it's like 4 or 5 exercises in a row. The focus is on getting you down to your absolute rock bottom squat position. So it should be windshield wiper, hands back, shin box, hands forward, shin box. I'm missing one, and then 4 count. And you can evolve those movements in a ton of different ways, of course. And we did that in the Strong and Fit mobility program, the 12-minute mobility program, 6 12-minute mobility programs. Those are your most important things. And then you need to do Spinal Rock series. Spinal Rock series is rolling like a ball in Pilates. Sit on your tailbone, rock back. Don't crush your neck, which is what you're learning to do. You're learning to not crush your neck when you do spinal rocks. You don't roll so far back that you crush your neck, which is part of getting thrown in judo and in jiu-jitsu. You need to be able to actually roll. They call it rolling when you spar. Spinal rock series, so spinal rock bent leg, spinal rock straight leg with bent in the middle, straight leg spinal rock, which is essentially a rolling plow or a rolling boat pose from yoga. And then you need to start rolling into one shoulder. Spinal rock, drop one knee next to one ear. Come down, spinal rock, drop one knee next to one ear. And that's starting to shift your spine from side to side in the roll so that you can check if the length of the, so that you can check if your muscles lengthen on either side of your spine equally well. Usually people have one good shoulder and one bad shoulder. And then you start doing a roll back, put the knee on the ground, roll up, and then roll back forward and reach for your toes. And then there's the judo series, of rolling drills, starting from a half kneeling position. Start with half kneeling. You have same side and opposite side shoulder leads when you do rolls. So think half kneeling position, lead leg, same side shoulder. And then through that whole judo series, half kneeling, same side shoulder rolls, standing shoulder rolls, and then all the variations of each one. Then half kneeling break fall, and then standing break fall. And you should do those every time. The problem is with timing formats now, the way people are teaching judo and jiu-jitsu now, they're teaching them inside of an hour, which leaves very little time for all of this stuff. So if you're teaching judo or jiu-jitsu, you have to pick something to focus on that day and do, say, 10 minutes of it, and then teach your class, and then you should have at least 10 minutes to cool down. That's not how it's done anymore, at least anywhere I've been. Usually you get a version of a warm-up, which is like jogging, lateral jogging, but I haven't gone anywhere they've done the actual judo roll series anymore, or the neck mobility series. But that, I could be just wrong. I could not have been to the right school. They used to be taught that way when classes were at 90 minutes to 2 hours. When I did Aikijutsu and all that stuff back in the 90s, class was 2 hours every time, and you spent 45 minutes of it doing warm-up every time. The same thing I did when I did traditional Shaolin Kung Fu. The first 45 minutes to an hour was all warm-up. It was all your joint mobility. It was all of your rolls. In Kung Fu, it was your basic series. You know, you would kick the wall behind you and then drop into a split. We did that every day for 10 minutes, about 35 minutes into our warm-up. Everybody in the school, even the 75-year-olds, could do a kick drop split. Absolutely everybody. But it was camouflaged as traditional training, but when you think about it now, it was really just joint mobility and athletic prep training from 1,000 years ago. That's all it really was. And then you spent your time doing your forms. You did your forms because that was your athletic stance preparation, but I don't see anybody doing that stuff anymore. Nobody does stance work. You used to before people... Imagine this, you're training in a field in the middle of nowhere. How do you still get super strong legs and learn to move super well? You do your stance drills. Step one of your stance drills is you hold all of your fundamental stances, your horse stances, your mountain stance called warrior stance in yoga, your twisting stance, your single leg stance, I'm missing a couple, small mountain stance, and you would hold them for time. Easy way to do would be to hold every one for 2 minutes with no break in the middle. It's just, 12 to 15 minutes, depending on which stances you're including, of just solid legs, and your thigh should be parallel to the ground. I don't see anybody doing that anymore, but we did that even in my version of Aikijutsu back in the 90s, but I don't see anybody doing that anymore. So Frank, most important things: neck, shoulders, hips, spinal rock series, then the judo series, then all the other stuff, which gets left out, which is the footwork drills, the footwork, what do they call them? Footwork rush drills. I can't remember what they're called. And I don't think judo, is my nose crooked? I don't think judo has versions of the tantues. The tantues are the series of 10 or 12 basic stepping exercises that are essentially footwork drills, stepping, walking drills, which are taught in some versions of Asian martial arts. But I think that they've taken all of that out of judo. I think we just lost connection for a second. Sorry, guys. Bad signal out here. What was I talking about? I would recommend everybody, if you're running a judo school, take your class time, or a jiu-jitsu school, take your class time back up to 90 minutes. You're going to get less total class times in, or the way that I would do it is I would put an hour class that focused on a specific movement, all the breakdowns, both left and right side, and then before and after, I would put in a 30-minute section specifically of mobility training. And that could be a separate class. It could be a 30-minute separate class on the schedule. or they could overlap if you have multiple instructors in your school. There's a bunch of timing ways you could do that to make it work, but everybody would survive judo and jiu-jitsu better if everybody was doing that 30 minutes of athletic preparation and joint mobility every day. It's just been tossed out because of modern schedules, but I think it would be good if people made an effort to put it back in somehow. There's a million ways you could do it, but the 30 minutes of all of that stuff makes people better, faster. Let's go to some questions. Okay, do we have sound issues? I don't think so. I think we have good sound. It seems like Peter Bruik. It's got the little two dots over the U. Amazon Stipdation video reference. You talked about testing your max. Can you elaborate on that? Is that the max amount of dips in 3 minutes or the max amount of dips in a row? Max amount of dips in one go without stopping. So my max is 8 right now. You know, I haven't done dips in 2 or 3 years. I did a couple of them in 2020 when I was living in an unfinished cabin in the mountains. I took some 2x4s and I screwed them to the wall, and I got about a month of that in before I had to jump locations, and then I didn't have access to it anymore. Test it in one set. It's like testing your max push-ups. One set without stopping. The second you come off of the bar, you're done. And try to make them good. All the way lockout at the top, not those little half range dips, but get to a full lockout at the top, because we want to get to the full lockout. We want to go as low as possible without injury. Over time, the height of your dip should get lower, and you should get thumb towards armpit / pec line. That way you can transfer the dip into other athletic skills, more complex athletic skills. If you're doing short dips where you're only going to 90 degrees, you're going to have an extremely hard time transferring to something like, what is the Russian, is it the Russian dip, where you set up 2 boxes side by side and you start with your elbows on and you rock forward until you're in the bottom of the dip position, and then you push up, go down to the bottom, rock back, elbows on the ground. That's the best version of the dip, but you need usually 4 jump boxes to pull that off, which is $800 at its cheapest way to do that. Because you need something that's high enough. You would even like something higher than that. If you could get it, would be 6 boxes high usually. So think the 24-inch side of a box, 48, and then you could get up higher than that. The goal is to get to the point where you're able to do that with a kettlebell hanging off your toe, which is a very extreme range of movement, especially for most people who've been doing partial dips or half-range dips. They're going to thrash their shoulders. So I would recommend, when you're testing your max, lock out at the top, get down as low as you can, and then test your max that way once without coming off. So I hope that answers your question, because we're trying to get 60 to 80% of that number so that we can train below that number so that we can not thrash our shoulders. The goal is eventually to get us all to that box awesome dip, but you know, it's expensive. The Amazon dip bar was 54 something on Prime, so it was delivered. Boxes are much more expensive, especially like good CrossFit boxes that are stable enough to do that on. There are some good ones now on, I had one in my gym I had 2 in my gym back in LA, and they were, I think, the Rep Fitness ones. I think they were $200 some when I bought them. I don't know what they are now, but you really need 4 of those at least to pull that off. Yeah. But that's where we'd all like to go. I'd like to get back to doing all that fun stuff, but you have to have a place to store those boxes. Probably not in a barn, because mice are going to live in them and destroy them. You would like to put them someplace that's, you know, animal free, bird free. I don't want birds putting nests in them either. It's very annoying to get out. Take them all the way apart. Henry Mulligan. This is a calf one. I saw the word calf and I instantly stopped. What would your advice be around stiff calves and ankles? Single arm club is strengthening my foot post leg break, but the calf still lags behind a little? Yes, they will. I have about 80,000 recommendations for this because, as viewers of this channel know, I once ripped my leg basically in half. My leg went, instead of the direction it goes, it went 90 degrees to that and 90 degrees to that. So complete PCL disruption, LCL disruption. So that means leg, instead of being straight, went all the way that way and kind of all the wrong directions. All the wrong directions. The worst one you can do. Plus meniscus, plus popliteus tendon, ripped straight out of my body. Very, very bad stuff. So I'm pretty good at rehabbing knees. When you have a good leg break like that, your leg will atrophy super duper hard. You start back on your single arm club series, all the way down at the bottom, 10 pounds. And when you're swinging laterally, you're going to shift your weight back and forth between the legs. So after you break a leg or severely damage a leg, you will shift your hip and everything to your strong leg. And if you don't push it back to the center, it will get very, very bad. There are 3 things that I do. You need to start with the ground, and you need to do your whole single arm series. I know the program's not all fully out yet, but I've told you guys like 50% of it. Single arm, inside circle, outside circle, pendulums, pullovers, alts. And then you need to change what the surface your feet are on. So if your calves are tight, you need to elevate your toes very, very slightly so that your calf is put into stretch, and then you start the whole thing over again. Most people, when they are standing up and doing club circles in the beginning, they're learning to stand back up, but they don't straighten their legs all the way out. They will catch with bent legs. They will rotate one knee more than the other. They do a bunch of weird stuff. By elevating the toes, you will try to encourage both legs to straighten all the way back out during the catch. You can catch with soft knees and then lock out like it's a hard style kettlebell thing and then rotate. But you have to change the surface. There's all kinds of ways to do that, and we're going to make a video about that because people keep asking me that question. I just am waiting on some equipment to show up to actually make it possible because I don't have the equipment with me. It does require more specialized equipment in order to pull that off. It's not hard to get or anything. It's just, you know, it's money. It's always money. Get Bosu to send me a bunch of stuff, somebody. Somebody call Bosu and tell him to send me a bunch of stuff. Cold brew. Any exercises you recommend for BJJ? Yeah, like 10,000. BJJ guys, somebody's trying to rip you in half. Everything you should do should be probably in the beginning focused on single arm club, 2-hand club, because it makes your rotation the same each side. The mill squat program. The mill squat program is the basis of athleticism. It's 1/3 of the basis of athleticism in my mind. You need to be able to do your inside circles, your outside circles, your pendulums, your alts with single hand and double hand, all of your pullovers, all of your mill patterns. Those are all the basis of basic human function, and that is the basis of jiu-jitsu. And then jiu-jitsu guys need to be doing stuff like the slam ball program. The slam ball program is natural lifting technique. It's a big hug movement. It can be used for any type of wrestling that there is. Learn to power this stuff up off the ground, throw it over your shoulder, which is more the basis of certain types of wrestling. And then you need to get into your half kneeling position, and you need to do your club, your kettlebell, and your slam ball in your half kneeling position, because you guys are in that position a lot. You need to be super strong and not be pulled out of that position. What you do is you go through all of the positions that you get into in BJJ, and then you do the slam ball versions of that, the kettlebell versions of that, and the club versions of that. I'm going to make a whole program for this, a massive one I've been planning with Will Safford of BJJ Fanatics, who's like a very renowned, I believe he's an Atos brown belt. And he's super fun to talk to. I talk to him all the time. I just did a thing on his podcast, Order in Progress, and I could make 20 programs just on BJJ. I mean, but you start with the basics. You have to start with your general physical preparedness, single arm work first, work on cross body stabilization, then you work on the mobility of all of those positions, then you start breaking out and you doing athletic specific prep and then movement specific prep for each one of those things. I could write a program that's 10 years long that's just BJJ, and it is in the works. I have to have time to do it. I have the other programs I have coming out first are the Krav Get Up 1 program, which will be out very soon, 4 to 6 weeks tops. It's already in edit. All the stuff is shot. It just is being assembled right now. Then we're going to do the Turkish Get Up Mastery program. People saw a version of this if they were in the app beta 2 years ago now. That app company never delivered on anything that they said. We have hired another app company, which is why I'm more concerned about money now, because I've spent all of my money hiring a different company to make this program work. But it's not going to be out for till next year. We're going to do the Turkish Get Up Mastery program. So we have to shoot all the explainers for that and get that program out. That is the basis of BJJ. It's half kneeling. It's half kneeling, get up stuff. So that program will both make people better at Turkish get up, which is a basic human skill, getting up off the ground, and it will make them better at doing that under load when something's trying to rip them in half. Kettlebells are trying to rip you in half when you use them with one hand. It's just a controllable amount of something trying to rip you in half. So you can progressively let your tissues adapt to something trying to rip you in half. So that when you go to BJJ and when you're in unregulated effort and somebody is not agreeing with you and they are putting an unknown amount of effort into trying to rip you in half, you are more prepared to survive it positionally and muscularly. As much as I love things like deadlifting and back squatting, I just don't think that they are time useful for something like BJJ because those workouts are long. They're not cross-body stabilization. They do make you massively strong, but I think you can do the same thing with kettlebells and slam balls. And I think it would work out better time-wise. Not over, if you have as much time, then you would do all of it. But time-wise, if you're limited on time, which most BJJ athletes are because they're normal people who have jobs and they train BJJ for an hour a day, we have to get their program shorter and shorter and shorter. I am doing that. I'm trying very hard to get all that stuff out. It's just, if my family would quit trying to die, it would really help me out. Grant Gardner, middle of the workday, but still want to pop in. Grant Gardner is our lord of our Discord server and discussion board. Questions and stuff like that can be directed at him about Discord. And he's making us a giant list of videos of stuff we need to talk about. Faust, I'm going to go with this guy just because he's got a great name. You have discussed quite a bit about running while holding things. Do you have any advice or resources on doing so properly without leading to imbalances? Most search results advise against weights. Most search results are not smart people. Every basic culture in all of human history has run with weight. I can't think of one that hasn't. The Olympic sprinting distances were originally not done with nothing. They were done in armor with weapons because this is a basic human skill. When you think about sprinting from the original Olympics, think about it this way. Two groups of people went up to each other and they had on armor because they were trying not to die and they were trying to kill the other guy. They either threw javelins or launched arrows, depending on which version of that timeline you're in. If it was Vikings, it was 3 axe throws. And then they ran at each other as fast as possible and tried to break the other guy's line in armor. That 100 meter to 400 meter sprint was super important. How far can you throw a javelin? Especially if you throw a javelin every day as part of your athletic skill training so that you can try to throw 5 feet further than the other team so that you can kill more of them before they kill you. They would throw and then they would sprint with weight. Hunter-gatherers are more... Pony, what? Sorry. All throughout the founding of not the founding of North America is 100,000 years ago. We know humans go back that far. Let's say the origin of European contact with the people who were already here. They all ran with stuff, all of them, right? The tribes on the eastern seaboard were essentially a Stone Age civilization, and they ran with sticks and war clubs and bow and arrow and tools every day. That's how they hunted. They never left without their tools. Nobody would. Nobody in outside of a modern context would ever leave and run without stuff. The mountain men were famous for running with their rifles and being able to reload their flintlock muzzle rifles on the run and then shoot while running and hit targets, because that's what it took to keep them alive. Running with stuff is important. I think it's super duper duper important. And I wish that I guess I'm just gonna have to make a bunch of videos about this because I think it's super important. Starting with a very light controlled weight is something I think is probably the easiest thing to do, and probably starting in a crossbody carry. Something like a 5-pound mace doesn't have a lot of use for a larger full-size person once they get beyond the absolute pure basics of learning where their elbow goes and not hitting themselves in the teeth. I think you can extend the use of that piece of equipment, which is super cheap, by the way, but it has a terrible handle on it, into running, and you would carry crossbody position, one hand over, one hand under, heavy weight close to this hand, and you would run that way. And then you would do an equal amount of time or an equal number of sprints with the weight on the other side. Absolutely has to happen. And you can walk the weight of that up. You know, military guys today run with ARs or whatever the new weapon system is that they just announced, that MCX clone with the new 6.8 round or whatever it is. That thing's heavy. That thing is 10 pounds. ARs have gotten down in weight. You know, there are some ARs that are sub 7 pounds. I think Spike's Tactical was making one that I saw a running gun guy using that was like 6 pounds. It was crazy. But you need to be able to run higher than that. You know, think World War II guys running with an M1. Those things were heavy. What were they, 12 pounds? Something like that? So running with weight is something that should absolutely be done, absolutely be practiced. I think the mace is the easiest thing to do first. And then there's a whole version of this that I wrote. I tried to put it in a different app last year, and that app company also fell through. I tried to create just a running app just for this idea. And we're still going to do it. It's just going to take time to get it done. But you should run with maces first. And then there's a billion other ways to do it. We'll have to start making a series of running videos for that. It's just I'm not a great looking runner anymore after all of the horrific leg injuries I've had. I don't look pretty when I run. I mean, I look not great. I have a friend who was a Team Great Britain track athlete, and she told me not to run on camera. She said it was embarrassing and that you shouldn't do it. Just because I run like a redneck and not like a Team Great Britain, you know, highly trained sprint athlete. I run like a guy who runs through the forest. And a guy who runs through the forest runs very well in the forest, and we run not great on the road. It's not our jam. There's a whole type of running which nobody talks about that humans and wolves do, which is why humans and dogs kind of got together, is loping. And you can kind of only lope over unlevel ground, and it's a weird non-effort speed. So you've seen dogs walk, dogs run, but wolves lope. There's a whole different gait. The same way that there is a different gait for 5-gated horses like Icelandic ponies. There's a different type of running that they do. Loping is like the original kind of way that you ran distance in the forest. People who run in open savannas, they run, but loping is different. Loping with tools is very cool to see, and we should probably talk about it more. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't have anywhere to do that video. You know, maybe I could drive 4 hours to find a place to do it. There's no place around here where you can really, that type of running is doable, or I have access to the land to do it on. Very different. What can I do so my legs never get tired playing hockey? Snatches, long cycle, club work. Stevie Aviette TV. I think you asked the question last time. Yes, your legs are going to get tired, but you need to just make your legs less tired by making them way stronger. That means endurance weightlifting. That means learning to not put a kettlebell down for an extremely long period of time and working on your inside and outside circles with a kettlebell as well, so that you're working on the side hip snap and the side hip load associated with skating in hockey. Yeah. There's ice skater versions of kettlebell and club. Have we ever made videos on that? I don't think we have. Oh man, I should do that this week. I should put that on the list to do this week. Ice skaters with kettlebells and clubs. There's like so many cool variations of that. It's super fun. Evan Crawshaw, stay-at-home dad, currently using the swing and clean and press programs as well as doing single arm club. I'm not always able to do my workouts in one session as long as I do EMOM. Is this acceptable? Yeah, you can break up your workouts into as many sessions as you want. It's better for you metabolically to do multiple small bursts of training throughout the day because that's what humans are meant to do. Humans didn't just wake up and do all of their work in 1 hour and then stop and then rest the rest of the day. If you look at societies that live closer to the land, they wake up, they run for the most part. They do a bunch of activity. They eat much later in the day, but there's always bursts of activity followed by bursts of rest. Hunting is very much like that in the old context. You know, people would do a burst of work. I always like the beginning of The Last of the Mohicans, probably one of my favorite movie opening scenes ever, where they're running through the forest with their muzzle loading rifles, flintlock rifles, and they stop and they breathe and they wait and they take the shot. And then there's downtime where they then process meat and then they lift heavy objects. I think about this stuff all the time. If you need to break up your workouts into multiple sections, do it. That's why I'm putting out workouts in a bunch of different time formats in a bunch of different formats. So there's kettlebell swings, there's clean and press. They have different time formats. They can add together. You can change the different times a day. Club program, our strong and fit mill squat program can be shoved into a different time of day. People can end up doing 3 to 4 small workouts a day. And that has a very, very, very good effect on them metabolically. One long session tends to be how we do it. We shove it into an hour because that's the way we break up time. But if you can do some in the morning, some in the afternoon, and some at night, that would be best. If you have a bunch of kids and you're a stay-at-home dad, break it up. Do it during nap time. When the kids are down for X amount of time, do a workout that fits into that time frame. Maybe I should maybe I should publish like how long each workout is so that you could just pick that way. That is how we're trying to do it eventually, but we're trying to get all the pieces out first. However long nap time is, you would pick one that fits inside of that time frame and do that. You can end up with 12 workouts a week that way easily and be in monstrously good shape. Andy Douglas, hey Mark, what exercises are best to improve flat feet? Do isometrics help? There's a bunch of flat feet exercises that are recommended by foot doctors. There's a whole series of stuff, physical therapists do it. I ignore all of them and I point my feet straight ahead and I do single arm club swinging with an increasingly heavy weight. Usually takes 2 to 3 years. When people move their feet, they escape and they use their ankle and their knee to try to do the job of the arch of their foot. All of the single arm club stuff I do is meant to go up in weight and up in complexity, and the basic kettlebell stuff. All of that will fix flat feet. all of it will fix flat feet. Anytime you swing weight, if you point your feet straight ahead, if you are not pointing your feet straight ahead, it will not solve anything. It will probably make everything worse. But if you have flat feet and your feet are rolled out and your ankles are rolled in, you're making everything worse anyway. Yeah, all the basics that we do are designed to fix a bunch of stuff. We're fixing flat feet, we're fixing ankle strength, we're fixing knee rotation stability, we're fixing glute firing, we're fixing spinal alignment, we're fixing rotation of the spine in the 4 major directions, we're stabilizing the shoulder, we're making the elbow and wrist strong. That's the basics of what we're doing in all of our basic programs that start from the standing position and have swinging weight in them. All of our programs are meant to fix those things. I should probably talk about that more when I do program releases. I assume everybody knows that, but they don't. And that's my fault. I'm not communicating the information clearly or effectively for that. All of your single arm club stuff that moves laterally will do that. Anything that shifts your feet will fix the center of your spine. It will shift you to the center so that you get less pain on both sides of your spine. Your spine equals out, your glutes get strong, it travels down your legs, your knees rotate, your ankles learn to rotate, and your arch will start to fire up. I've fixed, I don't know how many people's flat feet. A lot of people that I used to train back in Hollywood had flat feet from wearing fancy shoes and all that other type of stuff and not having correct athletic training with weight swinging. Usually trainers push people into just heavy weights, big deadlift, big back squat. And then people get hurt because they're shifted to one side because they have a good leg or because they have flat feet or something. So the first thing you have to do when somebody used to walk into my gym is I would look at their feet. Take off your shoes, let me see you move. And I would see the arch of their foot, if it was collapsed or if it was firing. And then we would go through and then I would film their foot when it started to twitch. And the arch of their foot started to try to come on. And then when we progressed through the first 6 months of training, you would see the arch of their foot fire every time. Every time they moved, you could see the arch of their foot start to fire. And then eventually they all got beautiful arches in feet. Not ballet beautiful feet, because ballerinas think that everybody's feet suck if they're not a ballerina. But like if you wanted to be a runner, it would work great. You start with that flat foot, feet don't move, do all this stuff, and then you move to footwork drills, and then you move to running drills. Then you move to running drills with weight. Mark says, I can run with my fanny pack. Damn straight you can run with your fanny pack. Get a cool one and put all kinds of cool survival stuff in it. Joe Murray, definitely run with your fanny pack. Or get some kind of like sick, what was the Tarahumara pack from the company out in Utah? They have a great series of off-trail running packs. What is that? They have a dope chest bag, which is absolutely fantastic, which is a fanny pack that doesn't shift. I have 2 of them. I absolutely love them. Their logo is a bear foot. It's a just knocked on my own thing. Chest bag. What is that company's name? I got to think about it. They have a great chest bag that goes on and it straps over and under your arms. And then they had a Tarahumara pack, which is a very, very thin, very, very light pack that goes on behind that. And these guys, do distance running. They're the kind of guys who do the mountain running out there. It's not Kodo packs. God, what is the name of that company? They have great packs, a great running pack specifically. And then you can put all your fanny pack stuff, instead of having it bounce around on your waist, you have it tight to your chest where it's not moving and shifting at all. It's not flopping. Although a lot of guys do wear something like a fanny pack, they just run it to the back. But that would also be like some guys who do distance running, like forest distance running, use something like an old Vietnam H harness with the belt and then with the butt pack in the back. But there's a bunch of modern versions of that shift around a lot less. It has to be really tight to have it not shift. But I like the suspenders with a chest strap and then a low belt and then all that stuff. Yeah, you look super cool. You gotta change your outfit to make it work, because you can't run shirtless or anything. You have to run with something under those straps so they don't rub you to death. James, Tetris of training question. Why is it okay to exercise the same body part on consecutive days? Example, legs with squats and swings, or shoulder with get-ups and clean and presses. Because you're not training to your absolute max. People don't train on consecutive days like bodybuilders. That really comes from something like bodybuilding, where you do squats for an hour and you rack up the weight until absolute failure and you can't walk the next day. Nothing we're doing is designed to do that. We're always training closer to the 60 to 80%. Our programs are really hard to do to push yourself that hard because we're not isolating body parts. If you're doing a half kneeling clean and press with a kettlebell, you can't adjust the weight, micro adjust the weight of the kettlebell fast. There are adjustable kettlebells now, but for the most part, you use a weight for the entire workout and you learn to go a little bit faster. But it is always sub-maximal training because we are trying to survive. Bodybuilders are not trying to survive training. They're trying to slaughter themselves as hard as possible. So when they do chest, they don't want to lift their arm for the next 3 days because they've thrashed those muscles so hard so that they can get the effect that they're looking for. There's a very specific type of training that bodybuilders do, which they have dialed into awesome science to have a very specific effect. It's hard to do without all the equipment and without time to recover. All the stuff we do is total body integration. The slam ball program, total body integration. Strong and Fit Mill Squat Intro to Club program, total body integration. Your hands will fail before your body fails with most types of training that I advocate for. Same thing in aerial circus arts. Your hands fail before your body fails, or it should. When your hand fails, you fall and you rip your leg in half. Don't do that. Learn to stop ahead of time. We're trying to keep some training in the bank. You're only trying to push it to 80, 85% every day. There can be like 1 or 2 days a week, probably one where you push it to 100% and you fall apart. We try not to do that because when you fall apart, you lose the unification of structure, breathing, and movement. And when that falls apart, you get hurt. The more complex the movement is, the less close to failure you can train. So, if you're doing bodybuilding and you're using a hammer strength machine where you push up at the angle and you squeeze your hands together at the top, and it's trying to get these muscles right here, you can push that to failure because it's on a machine. You can't drop it on your face. You can't hurt yourself that bad. You can tear muscles up here, obviously. But you can't drop anything on your face. You can't fail in such a way that you would hurt yourself. That is the point of most of the equipment in the gym, is that you can push yourself more towards failure without killing yourself or killing the people around you. And that's why gyms fill them stuffs with that. They're selling you that thing that you go in and you can use all these machines, and then they absolve themselves usually of the responsibility of telling you how to use it or why to use it or when to use it. They just go, you have access to it, and they throw you in there. And that's why most people don't benefit from the gym, is because they don't have the knowledge and the education to understand all the equipment or how it's used. So we don't do that because we are somewhere between, say, bodybuilding over here and flow state over here. We're shooting for the middle. We're shooting for 0 to 90%, integrating athletic movement and patterns in a controllable way so that we don't get hurt. So we can train things on multiple days. Like I train arms and legs absolutely every day because that is how the human body works. There's no hunter-gatherer who's like, man, not going to walk today, not going to run today because I really overdid it yesterday. No, they do what they have to do in order to survive. That's the way the human body really works. The Vikings didn't row one day and then not row. You rowed until you got there. You started in, Daneland and you rowed to what is now England, and you rowed. You kept rowing until you got there. You rowed. Hopefully the wind was blowing in the right direction. Maybe you could put up a sail and take off a little bit of load for a while, but you rowed, you rowed, you rowed, and you didn't get to take break days. One of my favorite examples of that is the Pacific Islanders, specifically when you go to Hawaii and you stand on the beach and you look at the other islands, you go, oh, you got to paddle until you get there. You don't get to paddle for a 20-minute set and then stop because the current takes you out into the open sea and then you're never heard from again. You row until you get there, and you do it as many days in a row as necessary. The human body is the ultimate endurance machine. That is why humanity is so successful. So we can continue to train in these ways forever. The best athletes in the world, train all types of things all the time, So yes, we're training multiple things in a row because we're not training them to failure, because failure would probably kill us. Certainly true in aerial circus arts, as I well know. Good question. That was a great question. Yeah, UK fanny packs means a totally different thing. You guys do that thing in the UK. So this is Jeff Walker from the UK. They have fanny packs, but they call them something different. They stopped wearing them here, and now they wear them across their chest like this, like kind of a Neo-Tokyo thing. I see that stuff all over London when I'm there. Granted, I haven't been to London in a long time, but I don't think they've gotten rid of it. It's very much part of their steez. Keeps it up here on their chest, away from prying hands and stuff in the subway. They know where it's at. And it looks cool. It looks cool. But yes, fanny means something very different in the UK than it does here in America. Do I have any recommendations on supplements? This is a question from Lance, sorry, not Eonce. Lance H. Do I have any recommendations on supplements such as pre-workout or no pre-workout, creatine, protein, herbal? Whatever I think is worthwhile. I usually try to advocate for people to just eat as much real food as possible. That is becoming harder and harder and harder. I went to the grocery store last night. Half of it was empty. The stuff that I went there to get wasn't even in the store anymore. So I'm starting to think supplements are a much better idea than they were, say, 5 years ago when we had so much food lying around that we could just trip over it. You could get as many fresh vegetables and fresh meat as you wanted. That is becoming less doable now for large sections of the population. So I've started drinking protein shakes. I know, heresy from me. Because they're stacked with a bunch of stuff. They're scientifically engineered nutrition. And now as stuff becomes less available, I do think that that is going to become more important. I would love to do more research on supplements. If people know some supplement companies, who should I talk to about this? I always stayed away from supplements because they're not overly controlled by the FDA. And there have been a lot of things where supplement companies are lying to you and selling you stuff that doesn't contain what it says. A bunch of stuff was going to labs in the early 2000s, and nothing that they said was in there was in there. I would like to know if there's some good supplement companies out there. I'm just kind of going right now with the Costco Whey Blend myself because I have a Costco membership and I love Costco. And I just like Costco. I believe that what they say is in there is in there. A lot of these other companies, I have no idea. So I need to do more research on that topic. I haven't taken pre-workout in years. Pre-workout, I used to have an aerial partner named Viva La Glam. You can look her up, like Viva La Glam Aerial. She's absolutely an incredible aerialist, like 5'11" or 6 foot tall Brazilian. She does chains now, which is absolutely savage and psychotic on a level. So she's doing all the stuff I used to do, but instead of doing it on something nice and cushy like fabric, she's taking it up a massive level to doing it on like trucker chain. And she used to make me take pre-workout before our 3-hour workout sessions. And that stuff was straight. I was like, we can't do this. My heart is going to explode. I haven't taken it since then. That's been, I don't know, 8 years or something. I got away from it just because it makes you feel like you're on crack or something. You're shaky. For the type of training I do, I don't think it's necessary. I think that you need to be more in control of your heart rate, and you need to be voluntarily learning to slow your heart rate down, which is very hard on something like pre-workout. I know some people love it. I had some CrossFit friends who love it. I would love to know more about the topic. I need to connect with some supplement companies and figure out what is good and what is not, because I don't know what to recommend right now. It's such a toss up, and with it being not regulated by the FDA, I don't know. I don't know. That's a very good question. But I think it is going to become more necessary for all of us moving forward. Somebody says they got a so right. Squiggity sailor got a so right, and it improved his life immediately, along with kettlebell. Very true. Most people have screwed up psoas. I know I have screwed up my psoas 1,000 times, specifically from doing aerial, doing kettlebells that are way too heavy, and then trying to do aerial. Both of those things pull on your psoas really hard, and I have put myself down for 6 weeks at a time, probably 10 times. I was doing it once a year until I really figured out what it was. Because you go places and they tell you it's your back, and it's not your back. It is your psoas. All the muscles around my back are very strong, but when you're doing something like drops in aerial, my body is heavy and it tries to rip itself apart very hard. And once you get one tweak on one side of your spine, it starts to shift everything, and then you keep training because you want to keep training. It gets worse and worse and worse. One of the worst ones I did was after I rebuilt my left leg. I was trying to do double club swipes with two 55-pound clubs, which when you think about it, when you say it now, sounds like a terrible, terrible idea. And it was a terrible idea. And I tweaked my psoas so bad I could not stand up for like 2 weeks. That's one of the reasons I don't like swipes. Two-handed, that means a club in double swipes. A club in each hand, swing to order to double pullover. I don't like them. I don't think that they do anything very well. I think that that is much better done with something like slam ball or with hydrocore. There's a bunch of other versions that are way better. I think that clubs should not be used this way that much. I think that they should be used this way laterally a ton, because that's what they are good at. Your body's not meant to stabilize 110 pounds that way, independently moving long levers. I'm sure that there's somebody out there who can pull it off, but I don't like swipes anymore. I will do mills all day and then do that movement pattern like Kane Kills Abel slam ball slams or med ball slams. Much better, much better. I think that the swipe was always an attempt by club people to build clubbing into an Olympic type sport. It was swipes and mills back when I got in, and I just don't think swipes are good. I think that you should do that movement pattern with something like a kettlebell snatch or a kettlebell long cycle. I think that is way better. And I think if you're going to be doing front to back, then you should be in a stagger stance, and you should turn it into the Discobolus of Myron series, because you're actually doing the rotation the body is meant to do. Doing double swipes is just rocking back as hard as possible. Those big weights, you lose control one rep, which is what happened to me. You lose control on your weak hand for one rep, and it just tweaks your whole body and trashes your psoas. I do not recommend people do that. It's a terrible idea. But the so right does work that, does get rid of that problem. So if you're doing something like double long cycle, or you're still doing swipe cycles, get a so right and do it for 2 to 4 minutes at the end of every one of those workouts. Every one of those workouts. It will keep you alive, keep you from doing all this twist stuff and lifting your rib cage and getting yourself into trouble that takes you weeks to correct later. The so right is a fantastic piece of equipment, and I'm generally upset that I did not think of something that's that brilliant Sooner. It's so good. I spent years going to physical therapy where they take their hand and they reach in and they do psoas release through the front of your abdomen, and it's horrifically painful. And it costs a ton of money. I was spending $200 a week on physical therapy for like 10 years. It was a lot of money. And the Psoas would have just solved almost all of that immediately. Evan Crossshaw, HEMA question. Per your advice, I've dropped Mace training for now to focus on club training. Is there a way I can incorporate both single arm club and two-hand club into my weekly training? Yes, two-hand club twice a week, single arm club twice a week. HEMA, as many days a week as you can. Focus on your footwork drills and all that other stuff. Is that HEMA? Is that long sword? Is it small sword? I mean, the Germanic longsword, I think I'm thinking about, the Aragon stuff, Aragon, the King of Gondor, like that stuff, that's the stuff I like the most. But it's, small sword is obviously super fun and very effective for stabbing people. Will you put together a video about your staff, mace, and machete program? I have a seminar coming up. We should talk about this. Mace. I'm doing another one of these staff, mace, and club seminars with Summer Huntington the last week of July. Sign up. I'll go to FlowShala and sign up. FlowShala, Summer Huntington. We've done some videos on that. I should put a link underneath this video. I have forgotten about that. Because I'm thinking about other stuff. Will I make videos about staff and machete and all that other stuff? Yes. I don't have anybody to make those videos with. My partner in crime for that is Amina Amina the Russian, Amina the warrior out in LA, but I'm not in LA right now. I'm taking care of family stuff. But I would love to make 1,000 videos on that topic. There are so many things you can do. The whole idea that I have for mace and staff and baseball bat and machete and all that other stuff all comes back to years ago. I was doing a stage show. I'm not an acrobat. I should not be on stage. I got roped into this by a circus group. A Geoffrey ballet dancer roped me into this. And there was this other guy there who was an awesome capoeira guy, and we were standing around while they were doing lighting cues or something, and I'm standing on one side of the stage and he's standing on the other side of the stage, and we both have swords, and we're like, what if we just sword fight? And we started sword fighting on stage, and we started turning it into the Jenga of sword fighting, essentially. The Jenga is a movement and played in, the Hada? I'm saying this word wrong. In capoeira, I can't remember my terminology from capoeira, where you get in the circle and essentially it's free movement play done to music. The biddy bow, I believe is the term. And we started doing that, and we were like, man, we should do this every day. If we have to stand around for 4 hours, we should do this. But I was already a Kung Fu guy. He was a very high-level capoeira guy, so it worked out for us. And I was like, man, why am I doing all this other stuff in martial arts? We should be doing this. This is the goal. It's unrestricted movement with no limits. But in order to get to that, I started crafting a series of movements and ideas about how to break it down to limit it to people who aren't martial artists. So we got it down to the simplest ideas possible: attack, defend. In the beginning, I bring people in and I give them a staff. This is what we will cover in the seminar with Summer Huntington. I give you a staff and I swing another staff at your head. And your job is to figure out how to do the most basic thing in all of human athleticism. Put something in front of your head and don't get hit in the face. And then we do this as a series of time under tension training protocol drills. And then we change exactly one variable at a time. And then we progress through it. And I have written down several hundred of these drills in variation. And every time I do it, we start with the same drill and we end with a different end drill. So starting point is always the same: attack, defend, don't get hit, learn to block. Don't move your feet, then move your feet. Then there's a specific way we start to learn to move our feet, forward, back, laterally, in circles. Then we start to change the order of attack and defend. Then we change the grip of the attacker. Then we change the side, the high hand side of the attacker. All of this stuff is not done in something like HEMA or something like that. In HEMA, you have your very specific grip. If you were to flip your grip in HEMA, I think people might have a freaking heart attack. Although I do it, which is why I'm not super popular in a lot of places. But we want to get people to fill in all of the basic drills, and we're doing it experimentally. Instead of telling people the name of the block, what is the lower boar's tooth? Lower bore, I can't remember it I can't remember any of my HEMA terminology. I'm terrible at this. Low guard down on your primary side with your lead hand high. Instead of telling them that specific name in Italian from the Italian treatises, we just tell them to start down there, and then we start having them start from these positions and then get to blocks. And then we ask them a series of questions. Does that feel like it's a good idea? And people go, no. And you go, okay, we're going to practice it until you figure out what feels better to you. And then we would tell them the name after they have recreated it themselves. I try not to tell people a lot of stuff in martial arts, which is the exact opposite of the way I was taught. I try to set up an experiment and get them to achieve an outcome by experimentally repeating the idea until it works. And then we can name it. We don't name anything first. We do it after. It's a neurological training trick. There's a bunch of tricks we do with all of this stuff. We do the staff, attack, defend, all these other things. Then we start changing the attacking implement, usually to something like polypropylene sword first, because we can beat the shit out of them. And people can really mess up, and they can learn edge alignment without trashing expensive weapons or expensive metal training tools. Then we move to something like machetes, which is, of course, horrifying to most people who do something like HEMA or Japanese sword. But we do it specifically because we can destroy them. They're cheap, and we can destroy them. So we take machetes and we grind the edges off of them, and we do attack defend drills. And people will accidentally recreate all of the basic moves in both Asian martial arts and in historical European martial arts for the most part. If they're not recreating a certain position, then we will change the experiment to force them to recreate that thing. We will make it inevitable that they have to end up there. There is a reason that there is a basic understanding of movement at the basic level from all martial arts and all of human history, is because martial arts have been recreated over and over and over again, and they have evolved over and over and over again. But they start with usually sticks, and then clubs, and then those clubs turn into metal clubs, which turn into machetes, and then they get fancier, and then they get longer, and then tactics arise around the shape or the armor of the weapon. And so we're trying to go all the way back to the beginning and start the whole thing over again from stick, don't get hit in the head, move your feet, are you shuffling or are you walking, walk around objects, do all that other stuff. We're gonna do a whole seminar on that stuff, and we get through a bunch of it. We change people's brains forever, for sure, in that 2.5 day thing. We have an introductory section on Friday night, just because I want people to get the panic out of the way of having people swing things at them for the first time. And then Saturday, Sunday are full staff, mace, club, staff, mace, club, staff, mace, club. And we repeat these things in learning blocks over and over and over again as a specific neurological drill, where we don't let anybody get too tired at one thing, and then we jump, and your brain will see how they all interconnect and how the movements are the same, even though they are different. I would love to make a bunch of videos about that, but I need somebody to help me do it. I need another person. I can't just be explaining it. I need somebody who's done the training. Amina is a world champion wushu sword person, so her fundamental movement patterns make me look like a schlub. I don't look cool next to her. Even though I've trained for years, she trained 8 hours a day for 15 years. She's a world coach, she's incredible. So when she does stuff, it looks really cool, and it would look way better If there was somebody in my area who could do any of this stuff and I could shoot videos with them, it would be very cool. But I have yet to find anybody within several hours of me who can even touch this idea. Colin's question, is there a club trainer certification that you would recommend, like RKC or StrongFirst is kettlebells? No, not really, no. It used to be CST at RMAX, but that has been sold. I don't think that they're covering stuff the way that it should be covered anymore. I don't think that there's a lot of good club certifications out there right now. I should start one. I should have Summer start one. I should start one with Summer. Summer is somebody who's been doing clubs as long as I have, and Mace. I am super nerdy about this topic, and I don't see anybody else teaching club in a logical, progressive way anymore with a physical requirement that makes sense. Like RKC and StrongFirst are the brilliant model for how to run an instructor certification. RKC back in the day, I can't remember if I did mine in like 06, 07, something like that. RKC 1, RKC 2. That's the model for how you run a certification. I haven't been to a StrongFirst one. I have no idea what they're teaching, but the old ones were brilliant. It was swings and Turkish get up on day one. 4 hours of swings, 4 hours of Turkish get up. Every possible drill you could do to break people down with multiple small workouts in the middle to force people to get tired, to force them to have good technique. People had to learn to endure. A whole second part of the first day was Turkish get up, and then second day was clean and then press. I mean, 8 hours of just clean and press, just clean and press, just clean and press. Last day was squat and snatch. You had to perform your physical competency at the beginning of day one before anything started. You had to show up and prove that you knew what you were doing, at least a little bit, and that you would survive the 3 days. That is the model for how to do these things. Maybe I should run a club cert. Is that something that people would like? I could do that. Summer can definitely do that. She's a master's of sports something. She can definitely do that and get all the CEs, the continuing education credits and all of that stuff in there. I think that's a good idea. I don't think anybody's teaching it the way that it should be taught, personally. I think a lot of it's gotten mixed up with getting away from the pure basics of what it should be and making sure people are really good at the absolute basic things. I think that program design and just pure club technique are separate and they should be separated. I don't think that you should try to teach med ball and all these other things with club. I think club is its own very specific thing and it should be taught as its own 3-day dedicated seminar. And that's just me. I'm a nerd and I think that clubs are kind of going downhill. Oh, On It. I think On It probably might have one. If you're going to look at one, I would look at On It. Somebody just mentioned that. Evan Crossshaw just brought up On It. The guys in On It used to be part of the same guys that I were, like John Wolf. That guy's a genius. I don't know how they're teaching it. I haven't been to any of their stuff. It's really far away. It's even far away from LA. It's like a 20-hour drive from LA. Those are probably your best bet for now, until I get it done. I think that would be your best bet. Shane Hines, am I saying his name right? And John Wolf. Those guys are geniuses and super duper strong. I do not know how their seminars are or what they're teaching. Boar's Tooth, Posta de Singale. Seatset. Sorry, I just jumped. I saw a comment about the correct lower position for low back tip ready in Italian. I thought it was Posta de Dente or something. I thought it was the boar's tooth, but I'm going to butcher the Italian. Any chance of an East Coast seminar in the future? Sure. Somebody find me a place to have an East Coast seminar. I don't know anybody on the East Coast. Honestly, I've never really been much further east than Ohio. I just last year went to see Will Safford of BJJ Fanatics on Long Island. Very interesting. We were just all the way at the northern tip of Long Island. Don't know anything else about anything else. I've been to New York a couple of times with clients. I went there once for like a Saturday Night Live week where my client was doing Saturday Night Live. And I just walked around New York City. I've never been anywhere else. Last week, I just bought myself, I replaced a stolen motorcycle and I had to go to Pennsylvania to get it. And that was as far east as I've driven. And then I drove the motorcycle back from Pennsylvania. Super cool ride. Highly recommend it. Pennsylvania is a lot prettier than I thought it was. And it makes, I'm going to relate that quickly back to early America, 1750s, and the Pennsylvania Lancaster muzzle loading rifle. Probably one of the sexiest rifles, survival tools in all of human history. That's what they're pretty much using in the Last of the Mohicans movie. And you understand why that shape evolved of that specific tool once you've been through that part of Pennsylvania. You're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. I don't know anything else about the East Coast. I'm trying to get down to Florida to go to 8X, AdX, to their shop, but I keep having family health issues, and it keeps precluding me from going down there and doing that. I would love to find some dope places on the East Coast and do seminars. It would be fantastic. I wish that I had a place to do seminars. I tried to look at a place a couple of months ago in Southern Ohio, but I couldn't pay the family medical bills and put down money on the place. It's a shame because it was awesome. It wasn't as big as I liked. I think it was 20 to 30 acres. But it had a house, it had a bunkhouse, and it had an indoor arena with 13 stalls. And I think that would have been the absolute perfect place because we would have had indoor arena, which meant that there would have been an indoor training area year round, and it already had a soft dirt floor in it. So you could do things like rolling drills and weapons drills on unlevel, not perfect surfaces. And there would be enough land that there could be a built-in a loping running track around the property. That would have been super cool, but I can't take care of the family and do all the program stuff and pay editors and do the land. That is the goal. The goal is to get a place. I would love 300 acres with a giant steel building on it that we could put up a whole training facility, like a Viking great hall for sword fighting in the middle, kettlebells, clubs, and sword fighting and all that other stuff, and then have the shed roofs be accommodations for people to come and stay, and then a kitchen so that we could all just have dope vegetables and meat and cool things like that. I would love to use a horse farm for a seminar. Yes, that's what I'm talking about right now. Move to Germany, Mark. Germany is actually super cool. I have been to Germany. I did a big drive there in 2019. I was working in Romania. And then we flew to Germany to shoot in Berlin for a couple of days. We left early and we landed, I think, in Berlin. And then you guys have like some kind of weird giant pyramid right outside of the airport, which is super cool. Somebody tell me what that's about. And then we went down through Switzerland, and then we drove up the romantic road past I'm going to butcher this. It's the Cinderella Castle, the Neuschwanstein Castle. Super cool, right at the bottom of the romantic road. And when we were driving up that, what I realized is that my area of Ohio was settled by the Germans, and you can tell it wasn't settled by the English because the English clear-cut everything. Right? All of Scotland and Ireland are not supposed to be rolling green hills. They're supposed to be forests. And the English clear-cut those areas to deny resources after like the 5th Jacobite Rebellion and all that other stuff. And so they clear-cut a lot of stuff where the English are settled in America. My area was settled by Germans. My name is a German name, Wildman, Wildman. And it's block of forest followed by field, block of forest followed by field, block of forest followed by field. And that's the name, Neuschwanstein. I'm saying that wrong. My German's terrible. But this was a thing that you still see in Germany today, and it was something that was done here by German settlers. And it was, you had a field and you had woods. And there are these small blocks of woods all over this portion where I'm at in the Midwest. And that was specifically because they were planning for the future. They were planning that they would need firewood in order to continue to cook forever, and that they would need wood so that they could, build houses and make tables and do all this other stuff. There's a version of Amish here, which that version of Amish actually comes from that area of the Romantic Road. And they live all just around here, 20 miles from here. And they moved over here during that time, and they settled a lot of this area, and a lot of that what I consider to be permaculture land development from Germany from the Middle Ages ended up here. So yes, Germany, love it. I don't remember what we were talking about with that. It says, Daniel said move to Germany. Can't move to Germany. They, like most places in Europe, they won't even let me possess most of the things that I own, sword-wise, archery-wise, all this other stuff. Certainly not in the UK. I don't know what German rules are. I know you guys still have hunting there because you see deer stands all along the Romantic Road the same exact way that you see them here in Ohio. Yeah. People would like a club cert. Cool. Mark won't stop until he has a cult of foot soldiers. If we're going to talk about the foot as from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then yes, that would be hilarious. I think that that's like one of the great inspirations was the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie for all of us who grew up in the 80s and the 90s and the foot soldiers. Like they had dope outfits back then. They had like cool eye buggy things that were made out of wire mesh. And they did tons of weapons training. The foot being obviously a joke on the hand. For those of you who are not familiar with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles lore, it is based on Daredevil lore, and the ninjas in Daredevil are called the hand. And so in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're called the foot, which is quite hilarious. And I'm not trying to build an army of foot soldiers. I just want people to be really good at the basics. And I think that the basics, there are basics of human movement, and I talk about them all the time. But the basics of weapons use determine all of the athletic movement patterns that we have, all the way back to ancient Greece, in the Olympics. All of these things are all intertwined. And it's only in the last maybe 60 years or since World War II, let's say, that we have forgotten what the basis of fitness is supposed to be. We've made fitness about something unrelated to survival or to thrival. And I think that that's not good. I think that getting people back to understanding the basics will change how people's brain works. It will change what they value, and it will get them to continue to train forever. Like people run into the edge of gym training pretty quickly because it's become pointless unless it's directly tied to a sport. But most people don't play sports after high school or university anymore. So the one sport that's still out there is martial arts. Specifically BJJ is the most accessible thing for people right now. So leading people back towards doing those things does a bunch of stuff. It provides a sense of community, and it provides a path forward. Not a short path forward, but a lifelong path forward of athletic development and athletic exploration that allows people to stay healthy for their entire life. So I would like to see, because BJJ and all that other stuff is being covered, I would like to do the stuff that's not covered that is even more human. The use of tools in these sports. I love HEMA, I love Asian martial arts, but a lot of people don't find that accessible because of the equipment cost that is necessary to do something like HEMA. You have to have the dope jackets and the helmets and the different types of swords and the gloves. And there's all these different companies and nobody knows what to buy. What if we can reduce all of that back down to a basic level where we go, you need a stick. And we return it back to the basis of what humans have done and how they recreated martial arts. And then they created athletics to support martial arts for all of that. I have like 3 sports I would like to create. I just need the land to do it. I would like to do a version of hunter jumper class, horseback riding. I'm not going to talk about it. It's too much fun. I'll do it when I get access to a bunch of land and we can actually set it up and see if it kills people or not. FMA, Filipino martial arts, super cool. Yes, Filipino martial arts are super cool. They have all these cool patterns. Once again, something I see with Filipino martial arts is that they get so complicated that they don't do the basic stuff anymore. Long stick, block your face, learn to step. Everything's got a name. The way it is taught is not normally taught in OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act, but I could be totally wrong. I could have bad information on that topic. I have never seen it taught that way. I went to a martial arts tournament a couple years ago and I saw a Filipino martial arts full contact stick fighting fight. A whole series of them. I watched 4 hours of them. It was horrific. I did not like it at all because everybody was dying all the time. They armored all the way up and then they just beat the crap out of each other and nobody was caring if they themselves got hit. And I looked at that and said, that is a terrible idea because the second you put they're training aggression, which is super good. But the second that they turn those into metal weapons and not sticks, everybody in the equation would die. Nobody was trying to not get hit. Nobody was working on evasion in any way. So I looked at that and said, what if we went back to machetes and we took all the pads away? And we made it a big, big, big problem if you got hit. So we reduced the complexity down to the pure level again of something like Filipino martial arts. And we said one machete versus one machete, right, left, right, attack, defend, stepping forward, stepping back, aim only at the head, aim only at the elbow. And we let people rebuild the idea without all the pads that cause people to look like be getting cracked 1,000 times. If you're getting hit with a real machete in any context, it's very bad. So I think that there are design things that we can work on in order to fill holes in existing things so that we can all be better at it. That's the goal. We're not trying to replace anything. Nothing is bad. Everything evolved for a reason. We're trying to go back and fix things that I see not happening and I see not being trained. Pat Spree says that Taboada Baling Tawak. I'm sorry. Does all that stuff. Good, right? There are martial arts out there that do it, but they're very small and they're not very accessible for most people. FMA, Dog Brothers style training is pretty hardcore. Dog Brothers are super hardcore. Dog Brothers have a very similar idea. Dog Brothers were a group of guys and they said, do we know if any of this stuff works? And they put on minimal amount of pads, only the pure basics, I think, fencing mask and gloves. And then they get in there and they fight with weapons. And it was too hardcore for the UFC, I believe. They tried to get a deal where they did pre-fights for the UFC and the UFC was like, no, it's not our brand. That could just be an urban legend from 10 years ago. But Dog Brothers does it very well. I'm just trying to do the simplest version of everything. That's all I'm trying to do. The simplest, pure basics of everything that would then allow people to feel comfortable doing anything. If you do what I do, then you would feel comfortable going to Dog Brothers. If you do what I do, then you would feel comfortable going to FMA. Then you would feel comfortable doing HEMA. Then you would feel comfortable doing, whack staff. Randy Allen, talking about doing horse trials, military trials. Yeah, we want to do that. That's what we want to do. That is what we want to do. Here we are. Summer Huntington, my co-patriot, co-instructor, just got online here. She's in the comments section. Summer, can you send me a link? I don't know what I did with my link. I could look for it, but if you would send it to me again for the sign-up link for the staff Mace Club program. that would be great. We were calling it an immersion, but it didn't have the word staff, club, or mace in it. So Summer, in her infinite wisdom, was like, we should just say the words and just call it that. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to try and add in a little bit of baseball bat this time in the end, because I want to change from staff to baseball bat, because baseball bat is something that everybody, certainly in America, has as an idea, and it's the most readily accessible version of a super hardcore club that there is. And the way that you change your hand grip on something versus a baseball bat versus staff is slightly different. It is a different neurological path. And you take somebody who's been doing staff and you hand them a bat and suddenly they have no idea what to do. So we want to make sure that we get in a block of that training as well in the upcoming seminar, just so that people have done it. If people have done it once, then they can do anything. They can do it again. They can integrate it in any other way. Mads Peterson. Hi, Mark. I experienced lower back soreness after doing kettlebell swings. I've watched all the forum videos on YouTube. What do you think is the problem? Glutes, driving your hips too far forward, or leaning back. People tend not to stand all the way up, or their glutes aren't strong enough. Preparatory exercise you can do is floor bridge. Do 3 sets of 20 floor bridges. But don't lift your rib cage up. Lift your hips up. Drive your rib cage down. Try to hollow out your belly button. That is the correct position. If you can work on that before you do your swings, it will probably help. The other thing you should do is single arm club or single arm mace and learn to rotate around your central axis. If people are leaning back when they're doing swings and arching and losing their core contraction, driving their rib cage down, they can't figure out how to solve the problem because their brain can't feel the problem. So instead of just yelling at them, we would like them to do something like bridges. Let's make sure the glutes are on. And then we want to do single arm club, because you cannot lean back when you are doing single arm club. It will encourage you to stand all the way up, and you run a cycle twice a week of single arm club. Focus on the basics. It will change the way you stand up, and then you go back to doing swings. Simplest way to do it is to give somebody an exercise and have them learn a different skill and fire their muscles in a different way instead of slamming their head into a wall trying to figure out why their back still hurts doing swings. You would come back to it. The other thing you could do would be to go to clean and press program. Cut the swing program for a while. Go to the clean and press program for a while. Same thing. It will change the way you stand up and the way that your glutes work and the way that your abs work. And then you come back to doing swings after you've completed 2 or 3 cycles of the other program. All of these things are specifically meant to interlace with each other. All the programs I write are specifically designed to fix problems that you could have in other programs. That's the way I write programs. I could tell people what to do, or I could give them another program and have it do it and have the problem solve itself. That is my job as a coach, is to solve problems that you guys don't know you have by designing programs which will trick you into doing things in a different way, which will solve the problems that you have. Did I say that right? I don't know. Guys, we're at an hour and a half here. I talk way too much. Let's answer one more question. Jeremiah Moody, is lifting heavy slam balls the best way to train wrestling back arches? Wrestling back arches, you mean the thing where you go on your head or you do the flip? The slam ball pickup is the first half of that wrestling shoulder dump. I can't remember what any of these things are called. I dump all the names of everything and only remember the movements because that's the way my brain works. The hug squat, all the slam ball stuff is meant directly to build the first part of that. If you're going to do you can do the shoulder throw, but if you're going to do the dump where you land on one shoulder and do the spin, whatever that's called, I can't remember, then you would need to use a different piece of equipment. It's very hard to do that with the slam ball because it's not long enough. You could do that, do the slam ball program because it's controlled. It comes in a bunch of weights. It builds the correct core structure to rip things up off the ground that way. And then once you've built up to a heavy weight, then you would start doing it with something like a heavy bag. Probably the next most accessible thing is a heavy bag. And heavy bags come in 40 pounds, 60 pounds, 80 pounds, 100 pounds. But they are very expensive and they take up a lot of space. So you're going to have something specific to work with. Usually people will do a bunch of slam ball or sandbag stuff to work on that front half. And then they will get one big heavy bag and work on that shoulder dump into that turn into the control. Totally different language in Greco-Roman wrestling. Never knew it very well. Or you can get like the suples dummies, but they are super duper expensive and just outside of the realm of what most people can afford. But yes, I think that slam ball is the best way to train the origin of that power of that lift. Slam ball or round sandbag. The Bells of Steel has a whole new set of sandbags, which are super affordable. I mean, I've never seen a price so low. They've come down $100 per bag in the last 5 years, probably, and you can adjust the weight of those. So they have a 50 pound, 100 pound, 150, 200, 250, 300. Also, you used to not be able to get these massive weights, and then you could micro load them. I still need to make videos on that, where you take like jeans, cut them off, sew them top and bottom, fill them up, and then you have a specific amount of sand in each bag and you could put them in and out so you could adjust the weight quickly. That's the redneck way to do it. That's how I do it. And then you could start working that in a controlled manner. The problem with something like that is it tends to need to start slow. The reason we start our recommended weights for slam balls at low weights is because that core firing is different than what most people are used to. If you do kettlebells and you do clubs and you do mace and you do hydrocore, it's not that bad of a transition. But if you come from straight line stuff like gym training or like barbell, it's a pretty big change in how your core works and how it wraps and how your back rounds. That's why we write the programs, so that people can fill all these holes in, so that they have the basics, so they can do all kinds of other stuff. I'm just trying to get everybody to live their best life, I guess. You know, go places, do things, learn stuff. Martial arts are a path that lasts forever. You could do 5 martial arts in your life or 1 and still fill 70 years. So we're just trying to provide support for all of these ideas in the most economical way for the least amount of time. Always trying to do that. It's always trying to solve that equation, because that's the way I wish people had written programs for me, and no one ever did. All right, guys, we'll come back next week. And guys, vote on times and tell me what times you think would be best for next week. Next week should be a later time. Last week we did 3 p.m. and that meant it was noon in LA, 3 p.m. here, and people in Europe could still kind of get in at the later half of their day, the late part of their day. And these questions have been great, guys. Continue to do it. I learn from your questions because you make me think about things in different ways and you make me consider things in different ways. Thanks for showing up.